Hi guys, now to finish this year I have something exciting to review today, and that is Gustard X26 III DAC. Now for you that are not familiar with Gustard lineup, 20-something DACs are pretty high up the hierarchy line, and this one goes for $1,600 US. And these letters in front of the model number are showing you what kind of DAC we are talking about. So for example, A26, slightly older model that I already reviewed, was using AKM DAC chip. R26 was using R2R DA conversion. And X26 is using Sabre DAC chips. And as I already said, this is pretty high up the chain in Gustard's lineup. So we are talking about Sabre flagship chips, 9039, and two of them in fact. So this is like fully balanced design with both single-ended and balanced outputs and just shitload of inputs. I will not mention one by one. Probably if you can think of it, if you need it, it has it. Everything from just standard digital inputs to Ethernet port to connect it to your network. And in that case, Gustard has a built-in audio renderer. Renderer is basically like a slightly simpler streamer's cousin. You do not have dedicated software that will handle all things inside of this DAC, but you can connect it to your network and then use many of already existing apps and connection protocols to connect to this DAC as a network bridge. And for that you can use Rune and its own protocol, or UPnP with apps like Bubble UPnP or mConnect, or AirPlay or Spotify Connect. So there are several different apps and different protocols that you can use. Personally, I tried it with UPnP protocol using Bubble UPnP app to stream both of my Tidal and Qobuz music from like streaming services, but also local files stored on my PC that is on my home network, and those files can be streamed to Gustard. Now moving to the front of the device, you can see monochromatic OLED display and some touch-sensitive buttons. You can cycle inputs. You can also enter the settings and then tinker with several things. For example, digital filters, there are 3 of them. One is called Vivid, one is Gentle, and one is Composite. And personally, I actually preferred that Composite one that just balanced some qualities from Vivid and Gentle, but it's a matter of personal taste and also system matching, so try that for yourself. You can also choose to enable NOS mode, non-oversampling or oversampling one. Once again, try that for yourself and see what suits you and your taste more. So what else? You do get a remote control with X26 III. And these analog outputs can be either fixed in level, so you get like a fixed line level output, or variable. You can attenuate the volume using a remote or just these buttons in front, and you can connect, if you wish to do so, this DAC directly to the power amp. But when we are talking about the DAC of this quality that has some mad skills, we'll talk about that in just a minute, I strongly suggest that you use a proper preamplifier, like a standalone unit or in a good integrated amplifier, instead of using this internal attenuation that is not doing the DAC itself justice. Next, like with all Gustards, here we have high quality all metal builds, praiseworthy, nothing to complain about. Looks on the other hand, it's something very subjective. I'm feeling so-so about Gustard's design, but you tell me, what do you personally think about X26? Feel free to comment on that. What's probably more important is what's inside, and if we dig a bit deeper, you see that this is not one of these cheap affordable DACs that just markets high-end chip, because these 9039 DAC chips are high-end and it's using 2 of them, but it has everything else around it built to the same high standard. So for example, the power supply is a dual linear setup. One separate linear power supply with its own transformer for digital section, The other one, once again, separate transformer, separate filtration, and just power handling for analog section. High quality, precise internal clocks are used. Class A output stage feels very solidly designed, and just looking inside of it and care and attention and engineering that goes into it promises. And of course also the fact that I already reviewed two Gustard DACs of this same 26 lineup, so I pretty much know that I can expect a lot from them. So that said, let's talk about how X26 III actually sounds. First, to make testing easier and more comparable to most other DACs, I've tested Gustard X26 III as a DAC only, connected to my external standalone streamer Volumio Revo Plus, using either USB, I2S or coaxial connection. And what I noticed immediately, first of all, is that X26 III is truly highly revealing. Every single detail pops out. Transients are so quick, precise and crisp. You hear everything going on in the recording. But even more than that, there's certain energy and forwardness and zest in the sound of X26 III that is immediately noticeable, and it goes across the frequency spectrum. For example, if you have some mid-range kind of click or something like that, or cymbal crush in highs, that always feels so forward, so immediately snappy and outgoing, like there is a great energy behind every tone, no matter its frequency spectrum. But it is worth mentioning that bassline is extremely authoritative, deep, it has great punch and slam, it just hammers down bass notes with incredible power and also ease and speed. There's great dynamics, great vigor happening there. Next, sound staging is also surprisingly good for a Sabre DAC. It just shows that it's not about the DAC chip used, but about the whole construction, power supplies, output stage, and how well all of that is done and integrated together. And the sound staging on this DAC is surprisingly good. While soundstage can be deep, it can create plenty of room around and behind speakers, that forward energetic character makes leading vocals and leading instruments pop out, like pop towards you, and feels very nice, three-dimensional, palpable in space. And all of those tones in the soundstage have precise positioning, they have plenty of empty space around them, room in between them, and just sensation of airiness and very open, airy, breezy soundstage, which I have to admit I didn't expect to hear from this X version of the DAC, this Sabre version of the DAC. I expected something equally precise, dynamic and engaging, but narrower in scope. Not this big and airy and breezy in terms of sound staging. But one thing that you should be aware with X26 III is that this is not a warm sounding DAC. Even though, as I explained, it has very full, deep, authoritative, ballsy bass, it definitely prioritizes focused, energetic tones that are popping out, that have great energy and engagement. But if you want something that's warmer, more laid back, smoother, calmer, something that you would call analog-like sounding, this Gustard is not it. Which actually leads me to comparisons. And unfortunately, I do not have Gustard A26 and R26 that I already reviewed with me anymore. Those are few years older models. This X26 III is from a new generation. But I do remember that A26 sounded very revealing, airy, open. It also had equally big sound stage, but it felt dynamically flatter. And spatially speaking, while it was wide and tall, it didn't feel this deep and this three-dimensional. Tones were slightly more flat, they were not popping out this much. and the bass line was not this grunty, punchy and slammy, and also the rest of the frequency spectrum didn't have the same pop-out effect that X26 III has. And while some might prefer that A26 less engaging, slightly flatter and calmer nature, I do think that most of you, like me personally, would definitely prefer X26 III. By the way, A26 III is probably coming, so that will be a much more interesting comparison. This is both different chip, but also different generation, and X26 III is taking that one easily in my opinion. R26, also from the older generation, is a sweeter sounding DAC. It has slightly mellower, more rounded, fluffier, more padded tones that are very seductive. They are not tiring. That one, R26, also has huge sound staging, but it's just not this relentless with dynamics and punch and kick. It's more mellow, both in terms of dynamics, but also in terms of how it draws edges and tones. Everything is just a bit less defined, less crisp, transients are a bit slower, but also everything is a bit mellower and sweeter. So choose according to your own taste and by knowing your own system and what it needs. X26 III for higher technical excellence, more dynamics, more pop-out factor, and R26 for something that's mellower and sweeter, but not as resolving and as dynamic as X26 III. But let's move on to a direct comparison that I think a lot of you will be interested in, and that's with Gustard D90 III Discrete. Now this is more affordable DAC at $999, basically $1,000 US. And what's even more interesting, these two DACs share a lot of qualities and they share a lot of their sound signature. And while D90 III Discrete is an amazing DAC, there is no question about it, I could live with this one for the rest of my life without complaining about anything. Gustard X26 III is doing those same qualities slightly better. Everything I talked about, like good sound staging, it's good on D90 III Discrete, but it's slightly bigger and wider with Gustard. Dynamics are great with D90 III Discrete, slightly greater with Gustard. Bassline has more grunt, it feels heavier and punchier. And in highest frequencies, there is a sensation of slightly more air spreading around your speakers with Gustard. And lastly, just sheer resolution and detail retrieval, and how quick and crisp transients are. Fantastic on Topping, slightly better, faster and crisper with Gustard. So it feels like if Topping is 9 or 9 point something, Gustard is all of that, just dialed up a bit more to 10. I don't know what to conclude here. Topping is more affordable, maybe it's even a better value, I cannot tell that. In some systems you probably couldn't tell the difference, but if your system is a really good one, like mine that I'm testing them in is. I don't do fake modesty, I'm sorry, my system is awesome. So if you have an awesome system too, you will notice that increase from 9 to 10, just cranking it up a notch. And that's it basically. Two absolutely great DACs, but Gustard is just slightly more impressive than Topping. Choose your poison, choose according to your budget and according to how big of an crazy audiophile you are, but you cannot go wrong with either one of these. Another comparison with Holo Audio Cyan 2. Now this one is quite interesting because now we have different flavors, different tonalities. And Cyan 2 is something that sounds smoother and more mellow and more laid back. It's just milder sounding R2R NOS DAC. And how you perceive these two DACs will depend a lot on your personal taste and what you prioritize in your sound more, and also what kind of music genres you are listening mostly. Now, Gustard is technically more impressive DAC. It has greater dynamics. It even matches this R2R soundstage and slightly exceeds it. It sounds a bit wider, a bit bigger. And tones feel touch more energetic and believable, present, physical in the room, with, as I said, greater dynamics, greater slam. But the thing about Holo Audio Cyan 2 is that it has this beautifully smooth, silky mid-range that is equally revealing as the Gustard's one, but in a milder fashion. It's just so smooth and refined and laid back. It can trick you into believing that you are listening to a turntable. Now, for some of you, that can be a huge advantage. For some of you, it probably won't. But the thing is that if you're listening like female vocals, nice jazz singers, and wind instruments and things like that, that will sound magically revealing, yet smooth and very pleasant with Cyan 2. With Gustard, some of these mid-range centric instruments and vocals will have a bit more edge, but on the other hand, they will pop out more. They will sound snappier. And if we are talking about livelier music genres like pop, rock, hip-hop, electronic music, etc., that slam, that bassline punch that's stronger with Gustard, that pop-out factor in bassline, mid-range, and highs, all of that will sound more attractive, more engaging, more physical and present in your room with Gustard. Choose what you like more and what's more important to you. For something to sound very smooth, refined and natural, yet still very revealing and having great soundstage. Also, don't get me wrong, Cyan 2 is a dynamically very fast, very capable DAC. It's not like those R2Rs of old that were very gooey and sweet sounding. No, on its own, it's just a fantastic, well-rounded product, but Gustard is doing those same things with more slam, with more authority and with more energy, making Cyan 2 sound mild in a direct comparison. Even though in isolation, it's really no slouch at all. But as I said, choose your poison, choose your flavor. My personal take on this is that Cyan 2 is more completely on level with Topping D90 III Discrete. And they are completely equally capable, but with slightly different flavors. Gustard is doing the same kind of sound, the same kind of flavor as Topping, but slightly better. And I think that the same can be told about Gustard versus Holo Audio Cyan 2, but because they have such different flavors, if you actually prefer this flavor and character of Cyan 2, you might still prefer it. You don't care about absolute technical things and comparisons. You just like R2R sound. You like that mellower, nicer, more refined sound, and you may prefer it. But nonetheless, I have to give slight advantage to Gustard once again. And now the last comparison with Laiv Harmony DAC. Now, this one is a bit weird, because in several different reviews I was slightly inconsistent about Harmony DAC. While I always praised it as a fantastic sounding device, at one moment when I was reviewing Holo Audio Cyan 2, I considered them to basically be the same tier. But later on, I kept coming back to Harmony DAC, and I realized when I am not trying to keep everything perfectly the same, for example, same USB cable, same power cable, same interconnect, but I try to get the most out of each of these DACs in every way possible. I, for example, realized that I liked the sound on Cyan 2 the most with its USB input, but then I liked Harmony DAC the most with its iiSquared input, and when internal clock of Harmony DAC was used, which not all DACs can do that. They cannot decouple the clock from iiSquared signal, but Harmony can. And basically, the more I tried to tend to each DAC independently, not creating artificially same conditions, I realized that I can get the most performance out of Harmony DAC. And having that in mind, Harmony DAC is in fact still the one to beat and still the one that I keep getting back to for my personal day-to-day use. I have been just continuously impressed and continuously finding small ways to extract more out of that DAC. And Gustard X26 is to some extent truly right up there next to Laiv Harmony. For example, in sheer detail retrieval, they're there. In terms of bass slam, Harmony DAC is doing that really great. It's a forward, engaging sounding device with great speed. They're there. But they once again have different characters. Gustard is more focused, and it's doing more focused, quicker, sharper transients, whereas Laiv Harmony doesn't feel as sharply focused with its tones and edges and transients, but it does create a bit bigger soundstage, wider, airier, and tones and vocals appear slightly bigger themselves. At the same time, there is slight warmth in the bass line and the mid-bass of Harmony DAC, but also completely natural presentation of all details across the frequency spectrum that no tone ever has even the slight sensation of edginess. And in a direct comparison to that, Gustard can sometimes sound a bit edgy and a bit rough. But given the $1,100 price difference, I don't see that as a problem, especially when you know that you have a whole audio renderer section with Gustard and you don't need to use standalone streamer. And while on that internal audio renderer topic, it is of a really good quality. Now, I quickly did a few comparisons to notice that it is somewhere in a level of a really good sub $1,000 dedicated streamer. So something like hifi Zen Stream or Pi2 Design Mercury streamer would not be an upgrade compared to this internal one. It's that good. Eversolo DMPA6 as a digital streamer, yeah, they're there. It's also not much of an upgrade. Something really good like Volumio Revo Plus with its linear power supply, it's already outperforming this internal renderer by sounding just bigger, more spacious, fuller, and tonally richer. Compared to Revo Plus, internal audio renderer is a bit narrower and just slightly less full and slightly edgier sounding. But nonetheless, as I said, it can go head to head with most sub $1,000 streamers without losing a beat. So it adds a lot of value to this DAC. And given how great its sound fidelity is, but also how rich it is with features and connectivity and just possessing this audio renderer on board, I also think it's a tremendous value. So Gustard is really going strong. It feels like they were watching Holo Audio and Topping doing these great models and were like, what? Gustard 26 series is not your favorite anymore? Hold my beer, please. And they sure did come back with a bang. Fantastic product, fantastic sound, fantastic value. And that would be all for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Happy New Year. See you in 2025.